Welcome to the Keestrack K5 walkthrough video. My name's Bert Hart from Equip2 and we're going to run through the K5 and how this machine functions and how it could add value to your operation. So starting first up, we're here at the control panel. This is the brains of the machine, and this is where we obviously start the engine and do any kind of controls or functions that we require. In the main, everything is done from our remote control. So once the engine is started, we can liven up the auxiliaries, so for unfolding the plant. If you want to know more about that, we have a video called a how-to video. So if you search how to unfold a K5, and that'll give you the full explanation on how to do that in sequence. So on the remote, what this can do is as soon as we started the engine, we can sit in our excavator or loader, however we're going to load this plant, and we can do auto start, and that starts the whole machine up in sequence. And then from there, we can adjust our apron feeder speed. We can adjust our MCL, which is our oversized belt, and our right side belt, all from the remote. And the excellent feature that Keestrack also has is we can also track the machine while in operation. So on the health and safety side of things, we're not having to hop off our excavator, change the controls over, move the plant, and then back up onto our excavator again. Everything is done from the remote control. And to ensure that this is safe, the surroundings, etc., to line up those tracks, you've got to hold those top two track buttons down for 5 seconds, and then it livens it up. So just to stop any risk of anyone bumping any of those buttons. So through the engine here, we've got a Cat C4, and with all Keestracks, we're running the load sense hydraulics system. The advantage of this is it'll give us a lot better fuel burn, and also means that we can track the machine while it's in operation. So on the fuel burn, in comparison to a gear pump, we're seeing a savings of around 25 to 30%. So this machine averages about 9.5 litres per hour, and a machine that's the same as this with the same engine but different hydraulics is sitting around about 13 to 15 litres per hour. So that's a huge savings in our fuel bill. So one thing we get a lot of feedback from our clients on these particular machines is ease of use, very easy access, and reliability. So as you see, if we're going to do any work on this machine, we've got full access to our filters. So for technicians, it's a technician's dream. And the likes of our apron feeder. And then to the side, we've got excellent access to our radiators, down to our hydraulics and fuel bowser. We're now up on the feed hopper. As you can see, we've got a heavy duty apron feeder, and this is the only option that you do get with a Keestrack K5 scalper. Reason being is they're a lot lower cost than a belt. So this will last the lifetime of the machine, rather than a conveyor belt you can do every 2,000 hours. The other advantage is being such a heavy duty unit, your feed size in this material is up to 800 mil, and that's a lot more than any other machine in the marketplace. And you see here in the apron, we've got a nice tight radius, so no material is able to slip in between, and that's a huge wear point on other brands. And it means that our radius through here is very, very nice and tight. So when the material is coming over and dropping onto our punch plate, it hasn't got that huge distance. So we're talking around about 350 millimeters. The hopper is 7 cube, so it's an excellent size. We've also got options to do hopper extensions, and that increases our volume to 9.5 cube. And it also means that we can load the rear of the machine with a front hand loader rather than from the side, which you all know is a lot more effective. Because when you're loading in here, you want the material at the back, and then your feed coming nice and even onto our screen box here. So the screen box on this machine is 4.9 meters long, and that's the true length of your screening media, and 1.5 meters wide. As you see, we've got this fitted with a punch plate, which is the most options that our clients use. Gives you the advantage of open area and that heavy dutiness. And so you see here the screen box is excellent higher walls, and so if we're doing any sort of gabion material, we're not going to have any risk of them jumping over the side. Just leaning on here, the screen flow brake. This is an awesome feature a lot of clients opt for, because what it does is when the material comes down, particularly a big rock, if you've got like a 700 mil, this slows that flow down, and then obviously gives you that screening time. And then when it hits the bottom, we'll talk about that main conveyor belt there on how that receipts the rock. But for the screen box lifts up in the air for doing your mesh changes for underneath, giving it excellent access and making that job of mesh changing so much easier and simpler. We all know that it's hard work and requires overalls, you get dust in your hair, but Keestrack's thinking about how can we make this easier for our operators and our technicians. So another feature that's really important to a scalping screen is how the oversized belt receives that material coming off the screen box. So if we look at it here, we've got impact plates here, extra Hardox lining, and then when it hits this base of the conveyor here, Keestrack hasn't just done impact pads, but underneath here is like we'll call it like a receiving or a trampoline. So there's a big mat underneath with torsion springs, and that absorbs that rock and then carries on up, which then goes on to impact pads. So the life of a belt on these machines will last a lot longer than what's called traditional scalping screens. And it's one of the features that really makes this machine stand apart. We mentioned access before, and this is one of my little favorite parts of the Keestrack. This is our mid-size belt. So we can open that up and get inside here if we need to inspect our screen mesh or our tension bars. And also, as we said before, when we go to do a mesh change, that screen box lifts up. Look at our safety bar here. The screen box is almost in the horizontal mode, and we're standing up tall inside here, nice and easy access. So to know more about that, if you just Google how to change screen mesh on a Keestrack K5, you'll find the video on that. So while we're in this area, you'll see here that this mid-fraction belt has got two holding bolts and then a horseshoe. So if we want to remove that conveyor to turn this into a two-way split, it's very, very nice and simple. It's a matter of lashing our chains on the other side, undoing the hydraulics, which is a quick coupler, two bolts, and then we can sling that conveyor belt out. And then our oversized conveyor is on a hydraulic ram and slides. So we slide that back and that sits in the position. So we're collecting our mid-fraction and our oversize. Where we see this being used a lot in quarries around New Zealand is if we want to feed a crusher, like an impactor off the back of the K5, we've got all our oversize going to the plant, and then an example is 20 minus out the side, remove that fines, and then everything over going into the impact crusher. So on that note, on the oversized belt, you can see the size of this feed height. It's giving us around the 4 meters feed height, and that's a great height to feed into another crusher. We're not having to stick the plant up on a pedestal to be able to feed the impactor. And that just means a lot more uptime. We're not wasting time setting up pedestals. We're not having loaders going up big ramps and burning that fuel. You'll notice this machine has got the turnbuckles up here. You also can go for the option where you've got hydraulic rams, and that means this whole conveyor can lower right down to the floor, and it makes it a lot easier for doing your access to your screen boxes. You're not working at heights, and just thinking about safety and ease of use. Another little quirky thing I like about what Keestrack's done, see these little bars here, there's 3 of them. Where they go is when we go to fold our conveyors over. So this one here has got a flat that moves over, the whole conveyor folds and sits in the screen box. But a real annoying thing that happens with some of these machines is your conveyor flaps around all over the place. So there's a bar that slots across the conveyor and keeps it in capture while we're in transport mode. Keestrack designers go the extra mile on these machines because they know the pain points of what you have to put up with in the operations. So rather than just having a basic flappy skirting here, you can see the mechanism, the way this works and how that collapses for transport. But in the working mode, you can see how we've got such big high flashings there, keeping control of that material inside in this belt. One thing that you do get a lot of in the mid-fraction belts as well is they're too high speed. So within the remote, being able to slow this belt down to a creep, and then you have the stones gathering, is a huge bonus and just minimizes damage, minimizes any stones getting, in through our conveyors. To that point, you can see we've got a bullnose scraper here. That's our first one. And also down the bottom, prior to the tail drum pulley, return drum is another bullnose scraper. So that's just thinking about little things that we can add to these machines to stop any damage and keeping our uptime. So that's a few things that were discussed about the K5. These machines are used in many applications, whether it be alluvial stone, hard rock quarries, making gabion material, compost, topsoil. We've even had them being used in firewood before. So yeah, they're a multi-purpose tool. Production numbers, these machines can be up to total 500 tonne an hour, depending on what our splits are in per belt. So Keestrack, these many details about a Keestrack. We talk about the hydraulic lines, we can talk about the steel and the hard ox being made of hard ox, but it's all about how is it going to affect you, how's this machine going to last you and your quarry. So any more questions, please reach out to the team here at Equip2.